Because there was no sun, people's sense of time became chaotic. Although there were clocks to display the exact date and time, could you say it was day instead of night? Every minute and every second was night. So, when the scarlet beetles didn't appear, people gradually began to refer to time using a 24-hour system, no longer distinguishing between day and night. The main door of Building 8 was destroyed by the scarlet beetles, and there were no materials to repair it. Gradually, people began moving out of other buildings and into Building 8. By 8 p.m., Chu Yunsheng noticed through the peephole that his door was crowded with people seeking refuge. It seemed that only staying in Building 8 could provide a sense of security. More and more people gathered, and after 2 hours, someone finally knocked on Chu Yunsheng's door. Chu Yunsheng ignored them. It was already challenging enough to take care of himself. After the life and death battle a few hours ago, he clearly understood that to survive in this world where insects could appear at any moment, he must focus on cultivating his vital energy. In the past 2 days, he deciphered the meanings of several symbols in the ancient book and discovered that he was currently at the level of the primary stage of vital energy cultivation. This level was too low. Not only was the amount of vital energy he could absorb limited, but the level of talisman he could create was also greatly restricted. Talismans were his means of survival, different from those naturally awakened experts. Self-awakened geniuses, although their attributes were singular, fire, ice, or other types, once they awakened, they could directly utilize the power of their internal energy, as if their bodies instinctively sealed a certain rule in a talisman. For example, the Ice Fist Man, who could unleash icy energy with a punch. Chu Yunsheng couldn't do that. He followed the orthodox cultivation method described in the ancient book. Only when his internal vital energy reached the level of the pure stage could he practice combat techniques without relying on talismans. Of course, if he combined them with talismans at that time, their power would be even stronger. Until then, he had to rely on talismans to unleash his power. Fortunately, the diversity of talismans allowed him to wield various attributes, and with their help, his power was no less than that of the self-awakened. Currently, he could barely create second-tier talismans. If he wanted to make third-tier talismans, he had to quickly cultivate himself to the level of the fusion stage. Third-tier talismans were truly reusable, unlike the one-time use talismans Chu Yunsheng had now. Each time the energy of a talisman was exhausted, he had to quickly replace it with a new one. Advancing from the primary stage to the fusion stage was not overly complex. According to the ancient book, as long as he released all his internal vital energy and then recharged it a total of 81 times, his body would be fully tempered by the vital energy, and after the 81st time, he would reach the level of the fusion stage. However, his cultivation speed was extremely slow, like a snail. Despite spending all his time on cultivating vital energy, except for eating and sleeping, the thickness of his vital energy was still increasing very slowly, unaffected by his urgency. At this rate, it would take Chu Yunsheng 8 to 9 days to fully restore his vital energy each time. Even without considering the time needed to release his energy, it would take nearly 2 years for him to reach the level of the fusion stage. 2 years? If it were a peaceful sunny era, he could take his time to cultivate. But in this dangerous dark era, that was impossible. Now, dealing with just 3 scarlet beetles was a struggle. If he encountered 50 of them like a few hours ago, wouldn't he have no chance of escaping? 2 years would be more than enough time for the insects to kill him countless times. He had to find a better way to cultivate. Otherwise, even with the heaven-defying ancient book, Chu Yunsheng realized that he could be in life-threatening danger at any moment. He pulled out the ancient book again and tirelessly studied it, believing there must be a way. He just couldn't recognize enough characters. If he could read the book fluently, he would undoubtedly find something unexpected. After a thorough search, he finally found a few related items. Most experiments failed, leaving only a talisman named Absorption Talisman. Chu Yunsheng wasn't sure about the talisman's function. Although he could recognize the 3 characters, he couldn't understand more than 2/3 of the description. Fortunately, he could recognize the method to make it. This talisman belonged to the second tier and required all his vital energy to make. Having used up nearly half of his energy in previous experiments, he couldn't make it now and had to wait for about 4 days. During these 4 days, he practiced archery with a crossbow, aiming to improve his shooting accuracy. Given his limited vital energy, accuracy was crucial. If he missed, the loss of vital energy would be significant. After 4 days of practice, combined with the 6 armor talismans' enhancement of his physical potential, he was confident he could accurately hit a scarlet beetle within 30 meters, as long as it was stationary. Shooting moving targets required more experience, which couldn't be gained overnight. 4 days later, he finally created the absorption talisman, but encountered a problem during its use. No matter how Ch.9 activated it, the talisman wouldn't absorb the dark energy. After a long struggle, Ch.9 had a sudden idea. If the talisman couldn't absorb the dark energy, could it absorb the vital energy stored in a modified human body? Thinking this way, he prepared to test it but found his vital energy was too thin to conduct the experiment. He immediately thought of the scarlet beetles. Their pale red protective shields were undoubtedly activated by the dark energy, indicating they contained vital energy. Ch.9 quickly retrieved the scarlet beetle's corpse he had stored and activated the talisman. Sure enough, the previously inactive talisman shot out a white light onto the beetle's corpse, absorbing its pale white glow into the talisman within 10 seconds. When the light faded, he saw that 1/6 of the talisman's blank area was now filled with flame symbols. Ch.9 guessed that this indicated the scarlet beetle's vital energy was of the fire attribute. Just as he was about to store the talisman, he noticed a thread of vital energy communication with the talisman, resulting in the talisman's energy being transferred into his body. Of course, he could stop this transfer, but he didn't. He wanted to see what would happen. The process was twice as slow as the absorption, taking nearly 20 seconds. As the flame symbols disappeared, the talisman broke with a hiss, being a one-time use second-tier talisman. However, Ch.9 wasn't upset about the talisman's destruction. He was thrilled, feeling that his vital energy had increased by nearly 1/3. This was equivalent to nearly 3 days of arduous cultivation. How could he not be excited? The energy from one scarlet beetle, despite possible losses during the conversion, could still replenish nearly 1/3 of his vital energy. Thus, he only needed 3 scarlet beetles to fully replenish his energy, rather than cultivating for 8 to 9 days. He immediately devised a cultivation plan he had been searching for these past few days. First, create an absorption talisman and spend 8 days fully cultivating his vital energy. With his current energy level, he could shoot 6 ice arrows. If each shot hit the mark, freezing 6 scarlet beetles, their energy shields would vanish in their frozen state, allowing him to kill them by other means and absorb their vital energy with the talisman. Since the talisman was one-time use, regardless of the previous energy absorbed, once fully utilized, it would break. Similarly, once the talisman was fully utilized, it couldn't absorb more energy. Therefore, to maximize the talisman's use, he needed to absorb the full energy, then transfer it into his body in 2 parts, each time filling his vital energy. The talisman would break after the second transfer. By freezing 6 scarlet beetles and absorbing their energy, his body would nearly deplete its energy, allowing for the first transfer. After creating a new absorption talisman, his energy would deplete again, followed by the second transfer. The old talisman would break, but he could then shoot 6 more, absorb their energy with a new talisman, and repeat the cycle. Theoretically, he only needed to kill 243 scarlet beetles to break through the primary stage and reach the fusion stage. At the fusion stage, he could create reusable third-tier talismans, no longer needing to carefully calculate talisman usage.